Belief creates reality. We're going to discuss some important quotes from Neville Goddard, Joseph Murphy, and their mentor, Abdullah, an Ethiopian rabbi who taught Neville and Joseph Murphy very important lessons about creating reality. The fundamental lesson that Abdullah taught is that belief creates reality. We might look at this external world and say, reality is a net result of this or that or anything that is in the outside of the mind. And we can assume this to be true, but upon reflection upon our life, we realize many circumstances reveal to us about ourselves and the beliefs that we held in our mind. And when we found some information and changed these beliefs in our mind, reality began to change. A lot of times, reality began to change on its own, didn't require any action. There's a mystical philosophy in Taoism called action through inaction, the deliberate doing nothing for a reason. Now, this can seem like a very far-out concept because we're so used to, many of us, working with the power of Caesar, as Neville puts it, which is changing the outside world. Now, I can relate to this because in my own journey, creating success, bringing forth my desires in the space of relationships, entrepreneurship, health, and different areas of my life, I believed that it required a lot of force, a lot of doing and busy work, which I realized afterwards upon reflection, masqueraded as a sense of accomplishment. And while it did seem to contribute towards the end result, I realized that there was many ways that I could bring it forth that didn't require me to do all those things. Now, this is true in the space of entrepreneurship. For example, if you look at somebody who creates a radical amount of wealth, it doesn't mean that they are working more than 24 hours a day. They don't have more than 24 hours a day. They work with something else, and that is their creative imagination. And we might look at the processes and the different things that they do in the outer world and say, let's do what they're doing. And this may or may not work. But what we really need to look at is their beliefs. First of all, if thou canst believe all things are possible to him that believeth, is one of the paramount beliefs that helps us understand that we can change our reality through belief. The paramount belief, all things are possible. Secondly, as you believe, so it shall be done unto you. When we start to internalize these confirmations of reality, because that's what they are, we'll start to understand how they are true. And that success or the end result is not necessarily just a result of hard work. A lot of times, it is a result of creative thinking. Now, if you're looking to bring forth what you desire, then it's important to realize that what stands in your way between the materialization or the externalization of that desire in your inner world is the beliefs that you carry around. Now, how do I know this to be true? Well, again, looking back at my journey, in the earlier stages, I used to do a lot of things, force myself to get things done, try to change the external world, and sometimes it produces results, and then I assumed that that was the way to do it. But then in 2004, I attracted Think and Grow Rich, and my goal was to get out of $50,000 debt. And in that book, he said, if you believe that money is a net result of hard work alone, perish the thought. So I said, well, this is a new concept. What if I started to adopt this concept? What would happen? I want to keep an open mind. After all, I was willing to do whatever it took to get out of $50,000 debt because I didn't like that feeling. Now, I still found myself doing things, and then all of a sudden I started to realize that there was opportunities and circumstances that showed up that I could not have consciously planned, that externalized as opportunities to get myself out of $50,000 debt. 3 years later, I found myself out of $50,000 debt. Now, it's interesting because if I looked at the current circumstance of how much I was earning and said, I'm going to punch some numbers in a spreadsheet and calculate how much I need to earn and what I need to save to create this end result, then I would use everything that I'd learned and what I was about to learn from different steps along the journey of the Bridge of Incidents to get myself out of $50,000 debt. Now, I created the spreadsheet, all right, but I kept my mind open to the possibility that it was going to show up in a way that was beyond what I thought possible. And believing that all things are possible, and as you believe it shall be done unto you, left me open to the possibility that it wasn't going to necessarily be from hard work alone. Remember, he said hard work alone, so I was still doing hard work. Now, the opportunities that showed up that propelled me into the position of getting out of debt, none of them involved any hard work whatsoever. And I got out of $50,000 debt. Now, the next step was I felt I had a desire to buy my first house. And this is very important. Desire. I had a desire to buy my first house. I felt that during the journey of bringing forth my first definite chief aim, which was getting out of $50,000 debt, I would realize who I am. What later on I would find out, I would call this my higher self. I would discover my higher self. I didn't understand how this stuff works, but I started to realize more and more so who I am, my higher self. Now, the desire revealed to me in my subconscious that I wanted to buy my first house. Again, I adopted the belief, because I proved it to myself, that creating success or the end result did not necessarily have to involve hard work. It was a choice, because I realized this, from the success that I brought forth using the principles in Think and Grow Rich. I attracted certain opportunities that I could not have foreseen within my awareness because I believed that that was a possibility. And in those possibilities, they lay opportunities that did not involve hard work, but still created the money. Now, the same thing happened with bringing forth the house. I got the exact house that I wanted. And then the same thing happened with my next relationship. I had an exact criteria of who I was looking for, and I got into that relationship. Now, I kept going on this journey, and I didn't realize how powerful this was, about how my beliefs were actually changing and that my reality was changing as a result of my beliefs. I didn't really put two and two together to the level that I have put two and two together today. And I realized that, okay, these results were happening. I was changing my beliefs, and then I was finding myself drawn to information like The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. When the student is ready, the teacher appears in the form of books and trainings and so forth. And this was true. So I continued in the journey, and then I had the hunch from my higher self, which was a net result of bringing forth my definite chief aims, evolving my beliefs to become more so in alignment with my higher self beliefs, to bring forth my results and reveal to me more of who I am. Now, Steve Jobs said this in his commencement speech. He said, "Follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you are meant to become." And in retrospect, that's exactly what I did. I realized I had these desires within me, and I wanted to express these desires, and these desires were harmonious to the life I wanted to live. They were my desires. I brought them forth, and then I released, in the process, beliefs that were limiting. Now, in 2008, I made a decision that I was going to leave corporate and start my IT business, and I did that. Tendered my resignation, and then the first few years in my business were a lot more challenging. And what I realized is that it was during that time where I was removing a lot of beliefs, in retrospect. I was doing a lot of things. I didn't really deeply reflect upon this information that I'm sharing with you right now to the magnitude back then. But that's what was happening. I was changing beliefs. Now, through five sensory data and meaning and stimulus and the sixth sense in my imagination, my beliefs began to change, and it externalized as my IT business growing up to 50 clients and getting success in that area. And then I started to understand even more so about this powerful concept of listening to your own inner voice and your higher self. I began to honor my desires, allow my authenticity to express, and as a result, create the kind of success and live the life that I wanted to live. And then, through the bridge of incidents, I created my first YouTube video and continued on this journey of consulting and doing other initiatives that were a net result of what I wanted to bring forth. In other words, I became more aware of the different things that I was representing or externalizing in the world that were inharmonious to my higher self, and I began to release myself from the programming, the beliefs within that externalized it accordingly. People, environment, circumstance, and information reveal to us about ourselves. They are a manifestation of our beliefs. In earlier stages, we believe it's the other way around. We are at the whim of that information, those people, the circumstance, and so forth. Now, it begins to taper away, and then we move more into the cause-based reality. In other words, we realize that the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. It is not the other way around. It was that way, but now we are born again into the spirit of the mind, and we realize that we are the cause of the reality. And this is what the premise of Abdullah's teachings were to Neville and Joseph, and that's what they have shared with us. Now, as my channel began to grow and I started to release the inharmoniousness from my life, I realized that this philosophy brought me to a really high level of understanding when I took on so many coaching and consulting clients, hundreds on the journey, that everybody who I was dealing with, everybody that was in front of me, was reflecting what was within me. They were identifying my beliefs in their being. Neville said this in one of his speeches. He said, "To the degree that I am self-persuaded, they will become so. And if they're in front of me, then they represent me because everyone is us pushed out." Now, I started to understand this even more so when I found a commonality in everyone. They would reveal to me their reality, their inability to create success in business, because I focused on entrepreneurship, and I still do. And I would reflect back on cause and effect of what they were revealing to me, and I'd realize that it had everything to do with their beliefs. And these beliefs is who they have identified with. These beliefs make up their self-image, otherwise known as the identity. Now, let's look at this a little deeper in this Robert Dilts model, which I'm a huge fan of. There are 6 layers here. On the top, we have vision, then we have identity, then we have values and beliefs, then we have capabilities, we have behavior, and we have environment. Now, vision is the desire, what we want to create, what is in our imagination. The identity is our self-image, which is mostly stored in the subconscious, which is why I'm a huge fan and advocate of working on yourself at a subconscious level. Because most of what you identify with is in your subconscious. It has not been made conscious yet because you have not realized that the outer world, or you might have, it's really up to you to reflect upon what I'm saying here, that the outer world is a mirror reflection of the inner world. People, environment, circumstance, and information is a reflection of this identity within, which is otherwise known as the self-image. The kind of life we live, the choices we make, and the outer world that we live in binds us to this self-image as this self-image binds us to this outer world. It is one. Now, when this self-image changes, or this identity changes, reality changes. And this identity is made up of beliefs. Now, if you look at the Robert Dilts model here, we'll see right under that we got values and beliefs. Beliefs are symptoms of the identity. Bring a person in front of you and ask them about their beliefs, and you will be able to cross-reference back to their subconscious identity. Question your own beliefs, and you can see how it's externalized in the world, cross-reference, and also reveal to you your self-image, this identity, which is, by the way, creating reality on autopilot. It is externalizing as reality. Now, we can bring forth bit by bit what we desire, or we could radically shift our identity and watch many things in reality change to be more harmonious to the identity that we choose. But this is an identity. It's not really who we are. Because if you can change the identity, then is it really you? Now, we'll get into this a little deeper, but look at the Robert Dilts model here. We got values and beliefs. And what flows from that is capabilities, behaviors, and environment. In other words, you change the self-image around the identity, the beliefs change, your capabilities change, your behaviors change, and your environment change. Done from a place of real power versus force. Now, when we reflect back on my journey and my example, I realized that you can change the identity by doing things in the outer world. That's one way of doing it. You can also change your identity by impressing the subconscious mind with a new identity, the higher self identity, or the identity that you choose to assume. And we want to pick the higher self because that is the authentic identity. That is what Steve Jobs said, follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you want to become. See, you are destined to receive the blessings. You are destined. The desires that you have brought forth harmoniously benefit you, benefit others, and benefit divine and evolution. It is the identity that we have, the self-image that we have, that may or may not harmoniously understand and automatically externalize it via the subconscious as harmoniousness. For example, you might have a desire to create money, but if this identity that you have is one of scarcity or taking away from others in order to get the money, then the way you will express that desire is through that belief that you have within. And there's cause and effect because what you put out comes back to you. So we then evolve this programming within to say, money is a net result of creating products and services that are needed and useful. If you choose to believe that, you can believe whatever you would like to believe, but the goal is to identify the true beliefs that are revealed to us on the journey via our higher self. The beliefs are created within. You can choose to accept someone's belief. You can accept my belief if you want, or you can accept a belief that says this is how you think if you're part of this identity called entrepreneur. It's up to you. But what you're always going to gravitate towards in some point in your life is your true beliefs, your higher self belief, and that will be revealed to you by 5 sensory data or via your imagination in the 6th sense. Now, these beliefs will be resonant to you. So my belief surrounding money is a net result of creating products and services that are needed and useful by multiplying your quality of service, quantity of service, and spirit of service, by doing what you love to do, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. Now, that may or may not resonate with you, but that resonates very deeply with me. And as a result of evolving my self-image to that identity, it is expressed in a way where I create businesses that create the outcome based on that identity. Capabilities, behaviors, environments reflect that accordingly. That's what I discovered on this journey. So everything is about this identity. Now, Abdullah he said to Neville, Neville, you must first start with self. Find self. Don't be ashamed ever of being who you are. Discover it and start the changing of that self. So what he's talking about here is exactly what I'm talking about here. Identifying your true self, your higher self, it is revealed to you by how? Well, Neville says this: God speaks to men only through the medium of his basic desires. See, we all have desires. We want to create things in our life. We have a desire to live. We have a desire to express. We have a desire to serve. These are basic desires. And then we have unique desires that are our own unique ability that we desire to express. And as a result of that expression, that's our service. And the service we provide is reciprocal. We receive. What you put out comes back to you. Now, one of the goals that we have in this journey is to say, what do we want to bring forth? And Neville has already given us the process. We impress the subconscious mind via the imaginal act. Or you could use my process, which is subconscious mind audios. Or you could use self-talk or vision boards or whatnot. The key is to identify your true desires, and they are revealed to you all throughout your life through hunches and inspirations. In The Alchemist, he calls this omens, signs that reveal your greatness, your uniqueness. For me, when I reflect back, I always was this person. Now I allow myself to express it more. It was received through hunches and inspirations, and even revelations in my behaviors in earlier stages of my life. And I find this to be universally true for others that I deal with in this space. So your desires are meaningful to you. Your goal is to bring forth your desires. And in the process, and I call this definite chief aim of bringing forth your desires, and I reflect back on my definite chief aim, I realize more about who I am, this higher self. Now, when we're talking about I, so Neville says, so we start with the I. Most of us are totally unaware of the self we really cherish. See, we are actually beyond really this identity. When you say, I am an entrepreneur, I am this way, I am that way, and we can change whatever we add after I am, then we know that we are actually not what we identify with after I am, but we are actually I am. We are actually the I. We are above this, and we can choose whatever we want as far as identity, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and express that. And ideally what we want is to find our true identity, which may or may not be what the current identity is. How do we know if it's not? Well, in harmoniousness, in our thoughts, in our emotions, in our actions, in our vocations, in our relationships, in different areas of our life. Now, this doesn't mean we should leave those environments. Perhaps it means we should evolve in those areas so our perspectives change on them. Now, through this process, I've seen relationships heal. I've seen individuals who started out in a business who lost their passion in it rediscover the passion for the same business. I've seen others move into all different businesses. It's individual and unique to you. So he says, so we start with the I. Most of us totally are unaware of the self that we really cherish. We have never taken one good look at the self, so we don't know the self. For the I is neither face, form, nor figure, but it does mold itself into structure by all that it consents to, all that it believes, and few of us know really what we do believe. We have no idea that the unnumbered superstitions and prejudices that go on to mold the inner form, formless I, into a form which is then projected as man's environment and conditions of life. So how do you know what your self-image is? We look at environment. We look at the conditions of life. This represents what is within. Now, this might not be truly you. You might say, well, I am not this condition that I'm in right now or this environment. And you know if you're not, and you know if you are. And you have the power to change this within yourself. You have the ability to go in within yourself and evolve this identity within by first recognizing, cross-referencing, and changing it. Now, this is something that I work with my clients and everyone that I deal with, including myself, when it comes to creating success in entrepreneurship. There's this end result. They aspire and desire to be entrepreneurs. I know through conversation that they are, in fact, that what they desire as their higher self. This is who they are. And all they're doing is evolving the current self-image or the identity. And when Neville's referring to I, he's talking about identity, into one in alignment with the higher self, which is connected to the vision. And the capabilities and behaviors and environments flow. Okay, the key word here is flow. Now, this is the journey. So what happens then is I identify beliefs that are part of the old identity. They identify this, and they evolve it via subconscious within to bring it more in alignment with this higher self. Now, as a result of it, they find themselves in optimal behaviors, doing the optimal capabilities, in the right environments, making the right decisions, and tapping into the power of infinite intelligence. Ways of creating the results that they have never known before because they have aligned with their higher self, and the higher self knows ways of bringing forth into reality beyond the existence and the association of the identity within, which is not the true identity. May be the true identity, may not. It's up to you to reflect upon that and see. Neville says, and now how do I go about changing the I? First of all, we must discover the I, and we do this by an uncritical observation of self. See, we have to remove shame out of the equation because even Abdullah said this. He said, don't be ashamed ever of being who you are. Now, this includes the current identity and the higher self identity. If an identity has formed right now and the circumstances are inharmonious or not in alignment with what you desire to create, then there's no need to shame yourself, because this is a programming that you have assimilated in your subconscious mind that has formed this identity from past. We have to learn to accept ourselves, and this is why I really recommend doing deep work on yourself when it comes to being your own best friend, self-love, self-acceptance, self-esteem. Because this will allow you to have an uncritical observation of yourself. You'll be able to look yourself in the mirror. You will be able to make the darkness conscious, which is the subconscious elements of yourself that you refuse to look at as the source of creation within yourself that has been externalized in the world through people, environment, circumstance, and information. He says, this will reveal a self that will shock you. You will be altogether, I wouldn't say afraid, but ashamed to admit you have ever known such a lowly creature. What he's saying is that this may occur when you first have this realization, when you realize that the circumstance, the outer world, is a reflection of within, and you don't like what you see. You might feel ashamed, but you don't have to, because Abdullah taught us. He says, don't be ashamed of being who you are right now, and discover and start evolving over to your higher self. See, that's the goal. The journey is as important as the destination. They are one. Many of us might have a bias towards the destination when we're creating success or bringing forth what we desire, failing to recognize that the journey is revealing, is contributing to our desire by identifying what is in our identity through the people, environment, circumstance, and information in our life. And we refuse to look at it because we're ashamed to look at it sometimes. But when we release the shame within, we become more accepting and understanding of what we're creating. And this is reflected in being more accepting and understanding of others, their viewpoints, realizing that everybody's creating their own reality, and you don't have to agree with them, but at the same time, you don't need to get into unnecessary conflict of who is right. Your description of the world is a confession to the self that you do not know. You describe another, you describe society, you describe anything, and your description of the thing you observe reveals to one who knows this law the being you really are. Anytime you describe another, anytime you describe anything in the external world, realize that you are describing yourself. Now, this is, again, not to shame yourself. It is to understand what is within yourself. For if you change that programming within, the beliefs within, you will no longer describe that person or circumstance from that perspective. If you do, if it's limiting, again, don't shame yourself. Understand yourself and evolve that. Because when you evolve it, you become a lot more harmonious in the bridge of incidence towards creating what you desire. And you also uncover your higher self. Your higher self expresses through you in hunches, inspirations, and the desires of what you bring forth. This is why it's very important for me, and I recommend this for everyone, to bring your desire forth, create it, go through the entire sequence and bring it forth into existence. Once you achieve the destination, you can enjoy it, rejoice in what you have created, and also reflect back and value the journey, which was an evolution of belief. He says, the secret being that is the sum total of all of my beliefs, all of the things that I consent to, that form a pattern of structure, that secret being draws onto itself things in harmony with itself. So if harmoniousness of what you desire is what you would like to externalize in reality from your vision, then the identity, the self-image, is brought into, on the journey, in alignment to the vision, and that vision and the identity are one as the higher self. When you reflect back on your journey, you realize that you have been cleansing your beliefs on your journey. You see that this is part of a grander scheme of things. I don't believe we're just here to bring forth what we desire. We're part of a bigger, harmonious relationship with all people, environment, circumstance, and information, and our goal is to raise the consciousness. This is part of the design of the divine plan. The realization of each individual of their higher self, identifying with their higher self, and expressing their higher self to assist in the communication of others and their journey, to communicate with others. This is why this information exists. Look around and you'll see there's so much information available today that says this same thing that I'm saying right now in many different ways. If you look back on my videos, you'll say I say the same thing many different ways, and there's a reason why. This journey is as important as the destination, and there are some important principles that we have to remember. And one of the important principles is that belief creates reality, or another way of looking at it is that you become what you think about. Earl Nightingale said this in The Strangest Secret. All prophets, philosophers have maybe disagreed on many different granular topics, but there's one topic that there are complete and unanimous agreement on. We become what we think about. Even if a person disagrees with that, they too become what they think about. Their beliefs create their reality. And whatever we believe, we will find in the external world information to support those beliefs. And if we hold rigid to our beliefs, we'll find countless facts to reveal our beliefs. And as I did in my past, I had a rigidity towards hard work and creating money. And I would do it that way. Now I use more of a creative flow. Now I still do things. I'm still productive. I am still doing the best practices that I know that I have to do to create and continuously create success in the different areas of my life. Except now I'm doing it from a place of flow. I enjoy what I do. I love what I do. I'm living the ikigai, doing what you love to do, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for. And this is possible for anyone because I realize that I didn't believe it was possible at one point, and then I came across some information that helped me change my belief. And then as a result of changing that belief, my reality changed. So Joseph Murphy says, and by the way, the reason why I put Joseph Murphy and Neville Goddard in here is because Abdullah actually mentored Neville Goddard and Joseph Murphy. And Abdullah was a man of few words. He lived through example. Not much is known of Abdullah, but the few bits of information that is known about Abdullah is all we need to know about Abdullah to live this philosophy and transform ourselves to our higher version of ourselves and bring forth our desires through evolving belief. He taught Neville to, even if five sensory data denies the desire that has been impressed in your imagination, it will still be brought forth if you stay true to the desire that's in your imagination, to look at the outer world as the opinions that show up, but not facts that deny what you desire. In his example of going to Barbados. And he had a very interesting way of teaching. When Neville said, well, I'm not in Barbados right now and whatever, Abdullah closed the door on him. It's a symbol. It means that he's choosing not to accept Neville's beliefs of reality that don't serve Neville. When it clicked in Neville's mind, it externalized as a first-class ticket, and he was in Barbados. Joseph Murphy adds to this by saying, just keep your conscious mind busy with the expectation of the best. Now, that's all we're doing. When we change our beliefs around, we're changing it into a format that is harmonious with the expectation of the best. Now, I'm not going to tell you what these beliefs are. You have the ability to find your own unique beliefs that serve you, that are harmonious and related to your definite chief aim. I've got many of them, and I shared a few of them with you, including this paramount belief here that I have, which is that my belief creates my reality. Now, is this an absolute statement? Well, to me, I choose to believe it. And as you believe, so it shall be done unto you. So it's really up to you if you want to believe it or not. But if you reflect back on your life, you'll see how it's true. And if you want to take the power back and keep the power and use this power that was your God-given gift to create your reality, then perhaps you might want to assume and realize, as a result of that assumption, that beliefs do in fact create your reality, and this can serve you. And I know this because this is what I've been instilling with my clients. This is what I've been instilling with my team members, those that I led in my IT business, my clients, and so forth. And I've seen the results that manifested as a result of evolving beliefs. He says, all of us have our own inner fears, beliefs, and opinions. These inner assumptions rule and govern our lives. A suggestion has no power in and of itself. Its power arises from the fact that you accept it mentally. See, you have a choice to accept it mentally or not when you realize that what you put after I am is not who you are totally. You can choose to put whatever you want after I am and believe it to be so, and you'll identify with it. This is how we navigated through life anyways. Most of us didn't realize that we were assuming the different opinions and fears and beliefs of others and creating an identity within ourselves that we assumed was ourself, which represents right now our current self-image. And what we want to do is recognize that that is how it is, and we want to evolve this self-image and bring it in alignment with the higher self, which will teach you the ways to bring forth what you desire, and it is done through belief. He says, give no one in all the world the power to deflect you from your goal, your aim in life, which is to express your hidden talents to the world, to serve humanity, and to reveal more and more of God's wisdom, truth, and beauty to all people in the world. Remain true to your ideal. Know definitely and absolutely that whatever contributes to your peace, happiness, and fulfillment must of necessity bless all men who walk the earth. The harmony of the part is the harmony of the whole, for the whole is in part, and the part is in the whole. All you owe to other, as Paul says, is love, and love is the fulfilling of the law of health, happiness, and peace of mind. In other words, the greatest gift that you can give to others is the bringing forth of what you desire. Because through the bringing forth of what you desire, you release yourself from any aspects that created a false sense of identity that is not in alignment with your higher self. And in the journey, you begin to value and accept yourself more. And through this trust and acceptance that you have to yourself, you evolve your beliefs within. You uncover new beliefs that you have not received from anyone else in the outer world. Not only do I know this, but reflect back on your life, you realize this is true as well. You have some beliefs within you that you want to express, that you want to identify with, that are harmonious to you, others, and divine. These beliefs are unique to you. They represent your greatness. They help you bring forth your desire. And we can choose to accept these beliefs, identify with these beliefs, and realize that these beliefs are contributing factors towards creating the results that you want. And through this process, as Abdullah did, as Neville did, Dr. Joseph Murphy did in Power of the Subconscious Mind, through the repetition of creating this, you help others through this knowledge, should you choose to, teach others, or share it through your creative outlets. Because many people know how this stuff works that don't necessarily formally teach this. Leaders in organizations, in all walks of life, instill this philosophy in their leadership, in their mentorship, and help others also realize, more and more so each day, that the power is within, and the power is found in changing belief. And as a result of changing the beliefs and bringing the beliefs into alignment with the desire, it materializes, it externalizes in reality. If you want to copy this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.